All right, for those of you that have been around a while, you'll recognize this Jeep. So we did a full install. We've got a DS18 soundbar in the top. We did some, it's gonna be hard to see, there's no light. We did DS18 amp underneath this seat. We've got some DS18 tweeters in the dash and some DS18 speakers here as well in the kick panels. Customer had purchased a 5-channel amp, and it was on back order forever, so they went with a 4-channel amp. The 5-channel amps came in, so we're going to be adding that amp to this side under this seat. I'm sorry, we're going to put the 5-channel on that side, and we're going to move the 4-channel under here. The 4-channel is going to power the front dash, while the 5-channel is now going to power this bar. So we got a little bit of things that we got to move around. So we'll do the amp install on this side, and then we'll, you know, kind of move that around and we'll bring it along. So under here it's going to be pretty straightforward. So we currently have an amp wire here that runs through the dash here to go to this side. The new amp we're going to add, we're going to come from here, we're going to go down, we're going to follow this track across, going to go across the other side and then up underneath the seat. We have, I think I have an LC6i summing device underneath this seat. So what we'll do is we'll jump from this LC6i over to the other side. I'm not sure how. I'm either going to go around the dash or I'm going to go through the console. I haven't decided yet. And that'll give us our signals over there, and then we'll have to run these dash wires for these speakers off the, currently on the factory radio, so we'll have to move them off the factory radio and run them over to that amp. But the bar itself is going to stay together, so none of that'll change. All right, so we went ahead and we quickly pulled the seat out, make it easier. So the amplifier is going to go there. I got the seat pulled out, getting the trim pieces pulled out. That way we can start getting our wires figured out, and then once we get that point, we'll mount the amp. Alright, so here we are a little while later. We got the passenger side seat out. We already had the driver's side seat out previously. Remove some of these items. So if you don't recall or haven't watched the previous videos, this was the 4-channel amp and the LC6i that we installed for that sound bar previously. So the game plan now is going to be to move this 4-channel over to the driver's side, and we're going to put a 5-channel here for the bar, and then we're going to take, you know, repurpose this 4-channel to go ahead and feed the kick panels and the tweeters here in the dash. So this is the install we did previously. If you want to go check that out, you can go look at that on our channel. Alright, so here's the amp that we're going to be adding in. So it's a NXL1200.5D 5-channel marine amp. This was the original amp that we wanted to put here, with the idea that DS at some point is supposed to be putting out a sub that goes in that factory Alpine setup some kind of way, and the customer's really interested in doing that. So we wanted to put this 5-channel amp in here to have the ability in the future to do that. At the time, so, you know, supply chain, COVID, whatever you want to call it, was the issues. We couldn't get one. We needed this for a ride they were doing, so he purchased a 4-channel amp. We got it working, you know, installed it. He was able to do his ride. When this came back in stock, he immediately bought one. So we're going to be putting this amp here. It's going to run this sound bar for now. The sub channel is going to stay not being used. whenever that is launched, or we may even do something different if it's going to be delayed for a long time, and put a sub in here. And then the 4-channel that was on this side, like I said, will go on that side. So we'll do a quick just opening unboxing. So we got an owner's manual, packaged nicely, got a lot of protection, bagged up. So I like these amps. I've used all the way back when the NXL, if you've been around, you knew the NXL models at one point were red. Love the marine channel amps that they offer. Only thing I wish DS changed about these amps, and I know it's, you know, I know it's because of the way that they're designed to be installed, is this fuse holder. So this fuse holder here, because it's trying to be an all-in-one marine water resistant package, is a pain to deal with. Even when you're putting it in a marine application, it's just not fun. And one of the reasons for that is the way that they integrate the fuse and the ground. So this harness is stuck together, and there's nothing that you can do to get them apart, and they cross each other. So when you're a stickler like me and you want to make sure wires are laid out in a specific pattern, when the wires cross each other, it makes it very difficult to mount this somewhere and not have to fight with that. So, you know, that's the only thing that I wish was changed about this amp. Everything else I'm happy with. So this amp, we have to somehow figure out how we're going to get it to fit here. We don't have a lot of options on what we're going to do with it, simply because everything is already wired. So this has to fit under this seat somewhere. So we're going to come up with a game plan as to where we're going to get this to fit. I'm pretty sure I can squeeze it in here somewhere. The power and ground will be fun to figure out, but we'll make it work. We'll get the wiring completed on it. I'll take you along for that ride, and then we'll probably finish this side up. That way I can button this all up, make sure this is working, since this is already wired, minus just making some more connections. And then we'll start working on that side. So that's probably how we'll attack this, and we'll bring you along for the ride. Alright, so we've got the amp on this side kind of pre-planned. We're starting to get our wires made up. Power, ground, speaker wires are coming in. This will be mounted here. Got some wires running in the chase here, so that way we can keep them nice and organized. Starting to try to sort this out. Got the LC6i remounted, got this 5-channel connected in. We had to make these bundles go up and around here because there's a seat bolt, that bracket that goes here, so we kind of had to go up and around. This is that fuse holder I was talking about, that and I mean, I get why. It's marine amp, it's really not, this is not the best application for it, but this is the one that the customer got. But I just wish this fuse was something we could take out if we needed to. You know, it's fused under the hood at the battery where it needs to be fused anyway. This, you know, 6-inch piece of fuse going into this amp is really, in my opinion, not the best way they could have did it. They could have just put fuses into the amp, made it easier. So we're gonna have to figure out how to get this kind of sorted under the seat once we get the seat back in. So just gotta make that amp up, and then get our power wire ran to the battery, fuse that, and then we should be pretty close to getting this thing ready to be played and tuned. So I'll go ahead and I'm gonna throw it on a time lapse so we can make this amp up, and then we'll go from there. so last thing we'll have to do here is just tie wrap some of this up, make this, you know, nice and neat, hide some of these wires a little better. But you can see we've got this ran up under through the chase. The rest of it has to cross from the other side because that's where the signals are coming, or the source is coming from. So we just went through the console. There's plenty of room underneath there. There's a bunch of factory wires that cross over in multiple spots, so we just followed those wires across, so that'll be fine there. So we'll tidy up a few more things and then get ready to start putting it back together. All right, so we got everything mounted. I got the seats back in temporarily so I could get the airbags connected back before I put all the batteries back in. So got all that mounted, ready to go. We're going to be doing some tuning on it tomorrow. It's kind of late this evening, so we're gonna knock that out tomorrow. Got this amp, show you this amp over here. Got this amp mounted. Let's see if I can get a light over here. So got this amp mounted, wired in. It's gonna be screwed down right there. Like I said, we'll got this seat in as well, so that way we could go ahead and check everything, make sure it turned, you know, everything turned on fine. Got doors back in, all the plastics back in, so really ready to go. Just gonna do some tuning on it tomorrow and then ship it. All right, so it is the next day. We're able to go ahead and do some tuning on this now, so we got everything kind of finalized up. Got to mount a few things here or there, but for the most part it is done. We're gonna go ahead and break out the stuff that I use to tune with. So I have a RTA and I have a SMD set up here, which I have found has made tuning a lot easier than doing the, you know, set the gains on the radio to 75% and, you know, try to level match it and things like that. I prefer using actual something that'll give me a set thing. That way I can make sure customers aren't blowing stuff up after they leave. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna set the gains on this LC6i first, even though it probably should not have changed since the previous. I just want to double check it. It's always good to just double check it. So I'm gonna start out by seeing when the amplifier, when the factory radio starts having distortion. So we're gonna set that radio to that volume right before the distortion. Then we're gonna set the outputs on this. Now you have to be careful with these higher level gain controls, things like these audio controls and a lot of other ones out there. These things can put out a lot of line voltage. I think, if I remember right, this one's somewhere, I think it can go 12 dB more, or 12 volts, I'm sorry. So 8 to 12 volts, somewhere in that range. I can't remember exactly. Obviously that's way too high for these DS18 amps. If I remember right, these are probably in the 4 to 6 range, so you have to be very careful. You can really easily damage some things if you crank this wide open. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with this LC6i, setting it to the proper level. Then we're going to set the 5-channel, and then we'll move over and set that 4-channel. So that's what we're going to do next. Alright, so we went ahead and we got it tuned. I didn't show a video of that. I've got another video on my channel already showing how I go through the tuning process with a SMD distortion detector, and then I have a RTA, AudioControl RTA for sound quality stuff. So if you're interested, go check out that channel. I've done it, I've done it before, and there's many other channels that do a much better job than I do, I'm sure. So this amp is finished up. It's mounted. We're about to put this seat back in. The amp on the other side. Hi, pup. The amp on the other side. Just got to clean some wires up again. I somehow accidentally had left and right backwards on that amp, so I had to swap the RCAs around. Just wasn't these are very difficult. There's a gray and a white, and the gray and the white look almost identical. So anyway, I had to switch that around, so I had to pull some stuff out. Gotta put these wires back in, get these mounted, and then get the seats back in, and we will call the customer and tell them to come pick it up. This one is done. So just as a recap, we have this sound bar up at the top that was existing. We went ahead and moved that over to this DS5 channel amp. The 4-channel amp that was in here before, we moved to that side. That's now powering. He's got a set of DS Pro mid-ranges here, 6.5-inch mid-ranges, and then a set of DS Pro, I think these are TWL somethings, I can't remember what they are, here. So that 4-channel amp's powering each of those. Which the problem we had before, the bigger problem we had before, is from these were off the factory radio, and the factory Chrysler radio splits all the channels between, or splits the frequencies between the different speakers. So there really wasn't a good way to get a tweeter frequency range out of this and a mid-range out of this, you know, off the factory radio. So by switching it over to a 4-channel amp, I put this on one channel, these on the other channel. So this has, you know, highs basically only, and then this is set as an actual true mid-range now. So it cleared up the front much better. Plus you don't have the distortion on the radio. It cleared up the front so much better, because that was so overpowering. I mean, you've got 4/8 and 4 I think those are 1 3/4 Pro tweeters, so you know you've got a ton of sound coming from the back, and you just didn't have any staging in the front. Not that they're trying to go after sound quality here, but it just seemed, it was just awkward because you had way too much sound in the back and really nothing in the front. So that helped out a ton. I think they're going to be much happier with that now. Just to show what was done here, so we originally had this fuse holder feeding the other amp. We added this one here, so this is in heat braided wire. It runs across the back, comes down. We have a fuse holder here, and then it comes around and it's mounted up onto the battery. So you can see where that plugs in there. So, you know, left it as just as a clean install as we did before. So should last a while. Customer should be happy. This is also, if anybody's remembers, this is also the vehicle we put all the rock lights on initially, and they had some lights themselves that had issues. So we got with the manufacturer, we had 2 lights replaced. So we replaced those 2 lights. I didn't video that. It was just, you know, unbolting them, unwiring them, and then installing the new wires and rebolting the new ones in. But because of how they did the RMA, they sent an entire set of lights, because one of the controllers was having an issue as well. So they just sent a whole new set of lights, and then because they realized that he was going to have to pay labor to have stuff swapped, they just told him to keep it, right? So that's, I mean, that's a really good, in my opinion, really good manufacturer. I think it was Quake LEDs. They that's who did the underbodies, or they bought the underbodies through, or rock lights. So yeah, I mean, every company's gonna have some problems, you know. It's all electronics, it's gonna have an issue. It's how they handle it after that I think matters, and I think they did him well, or did him a solid. Like I said, they could have just sent him, you know, 2 lights and a controller. They sent him an entire kit and said, you know, hey, just keep it as spares, backups, whatever. So, you know, that's what he has. He has a couple of backup lights now as well. So that was a nice thing as well. All right, so we'll get this wrapped up. I'll take some final videos once we get it, you know, all sorted out. And I'll see if I can find some royalty-free music. Maybe we can try to play some music through here. It's royalty-free. So you can kind of hear the sound. Alright, so there is the final position of the amp. It's mounted, the seat is bolted back in, and yes, because I know on YouTube, if I don't show that I torqued it, people will be freaking out saying that it wasn't torqued properly. So Yes, it was torqued down. So this is the amp when the seat is in the full forward position. This is what you'll see when you have the seat at the, what I would consider probably typical, probably a typical spot where they would be sitting with it. I'm not sure exactly where it was adjusted at prior, but this is basically what you see. You'd have to actually get down underneath to see the amp. So should be nice for them. Gonna go ahead and get started on that side, do the same thing, get that one mounted, cleaned up, and then get the seat back down. This one's a bit more challenging because there's an amp and a LC6i in there, so I kind of got to get it exactly lined up to ride in the center of the track of the seat so that the seat can move back and forth. So this one's going to take a little bit longer just because I have to make sure it's exactly in the right spot, but we'll get it knocked down. All right, so we got this seat mounted. We got everything put up on there. Let me grab a light real quick so we can see. Got that seat mounted. Got it torqued down to factory specs. So this is where the audio control lives, and it's got to be in exactly that spot because anywhere else you can't slide the seat back and forth. So from the side, really all you can see, a couple wires here. This is the factory harness for the seat, so you can see the amp. You can see the amp here. Let's look at it from the back. So when the seat's at its normal, normal kind of spot, you really can't see much of anything. If you put it all the way forward, you can make out the amp in the back, and you can kind of see some of the wires here. There's really not much I could do with that, the way these amps are made. They have plug-in pieces, so you kind of have to leave them as they are. But yeah, they're not gonna ride with the seat facing all the way forward anyway. It's in the dash, so they should never really have to worry about seeing anything. I'm trying to figure out where I put the headrest. Oh, they're in the back. Okay, yeah, definitely need to get the headrest on. So that's it with this. This install's done. It's all wrapped up. Gonna call the customer, tell them to come pick it up. We'll do a little bit more sound testing, kind of set it how they feel that they want it to sound, and then it'll be on to the next one.